right off the bat, we're from Massachusetts. And you've lived in Massachusetts for a while, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Massachusetts, out near Amherst. I'm
Oh,
not
damn.
sure
Okay.
where you guys are.
Nice.
Yeah, Nate and we all grew up in the same town just outside of Worcester, and that's where Nate and I are now. And then Zach, you're in Connecticut now.
Yes.
Nice, nice.
New England, clam chowder, and sports and such.
Yep, that's what
You know how it
we're
goes.
known for. Yeah.
And something else that we always like to kick off with too is while you're working on material for your YouTube channel and you're putting together your content, what music do you listen to get yourself amped up?
I don't know if I have amp music. I don't know if I put on music to like, oh, let's go, we're gonna do this. I listen to music mainly to like connect with me emotionally. So I'll put on some sad music sometimes if I'm feeling sad. I'll put on some, you know, I guess I'll put on some like nostalgic music if I just want to feel kind of like blissful or like nice, like something I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
But
What's,
yeah, I don't know.
What would that be, like something that you listened to growing up? Like what bands?
It's anything from like what my parents played, like Van Morrison, to like the more on the radio hits that I grew up to in the early 2000s, like Sugar Ray, Smash Mouth, what Lifehouse is that one?
Yeah.
Creed, all that stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, nice, cool, man.
That's
So
cool.
like what I like about that too is like I don't think we've really talked a whole lot about this side of just like listening to music, but I've kind of relate a lot because a lot of the music I listen to and when I listen to music, it's driven a lot by whatever I'm feeling at that moment. Like if I'm not feeling something in that moment, I'm just like, I am that person. I'm the worst person to drive with because I'll just keep shuffling through my massive list of music until I find something that matches the mood that I want for that moment.
Yeah, I get that. I'm definitely a mood chaser too. I want it to be something that connects with me one to one in the moment, and sometimes you just can't find it. Sometimes you're just like, I'll settle for a little less.
Is there any?
That's pretty awesome though, because like I went to school for audio, and I told my teacher that I listen to music that fits my mood, and he's like, that's really interesting because like a lot of people like to listen to, like when they're sad they like to listen to happy music, but I'm like, no, I can't listen to happy music when I'm sad because it actually makes me worse.
Yeah,
like I want music that
and I don't want to be angry.
Yeah, I want music to feel the same way that I feel.
I've actually had friends kind of like make fun of me because I listen to so much sad stuff, and I think there's a misconception that it's just like when you're playing sad music and you're sad, you're digging yourself deeper into the hole. But that's not the case. I think I'm looking for it because you're looking for people who have felt a similar way to you.
Solace.
It's cathartic.
Yeah, it makes you feel less alone in the world.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Responding to art that is sad because it's like, oh, other people are sad. Other people have been through this exact emotion. Other people have been through these feelings. So I think like happy music is the same way for me. It makes me feel sadder because it's ironic. You know, it feels like I can't access those feelings right now. I'm like, what's not happening? You know, yeah,
yeah. All right, thank you. I feel better now, and I can go.
See you, Nate. Great to meet you.
So, is there any like particular musician or band that when you're just in the process of putting together any video or your scripting that really just influences you in the moment?
My favorite like thing to listen to most days is just my friends' stuff. I have enough friends that do music that I kind of feel like I feel nice, like I'm about to create something. So I put on my friend's music while I'm working or getting stuff organized. Because it's nice because I'm giving them plays on Spotify and I'm, it feels nice in that way. And also, I just love what my friends make, any number of my friends are all really talented.
Nice. Do you want to?
That's really kind of you.
do you want? Do you want to mention some of their work real quick, just to see if we can get some people turned on to them?
Yeah, my friend Kevin Sloan, he's done a number of songs for my videos, but he releases a bunch of stuff on his own, and it's all really nice, emotional music. Some really soft stuff and some other stuff. But Kevin Sloan, famously, if you've seen the Curious George animation on my channel, he
That's
did
my
the
favorite.
he did the Jack Johnson cover at the end of that one. So, and Drudel, I have a friend named Drudel, and he put out an album last year. That's one of my favorite albums. It's just a really unique sound. And yeah, both of them I give a strong recommendation to.
Awesome. Cool. And you can you find them on Spotify?
Yeah, both on Spotify. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
We will give them their 2 cents.
Yeah.
Spotify does that, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
With their incredibly generous royalty program.
Yeah.
So, question: do you know Low Roar?
No, I do. Is that Low Roar?
Low Roar, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I haven't listened much. Were they the ones? I might always get this wrong. Maybe it was just a band called Roar that was in Death Stranding.
No, they did it. Yep, Death Stranding.
Yeah. I think that's
Okay.
where I was introduced to them. Yeah.
So my whole thing too is I've never even really got to showcase this on the show, but when I know someone like, especially likes mood music, you described a couple things to me. It's like, okay, I know exactly what band to suggest to you or see if you knew. So, okay, that's cool.
What about Paramore? Have you ever heard of Paramore?
You're losing me, Nate. I don't know, man. Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
They're kind of like you, Joel. Very, very small following.
Yeah.
Up and
very
coming.
small. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be this guy, but I will. I'm really grateful to talk to you because I've been following you for a very long time. Like I believe you were in the triple or quadruple digits when I first started watching your videos. And I have to say, like, it was fantastic watching everybody catch on when you started doing like the EB synth stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that was like really cool and really unique. And then you see like everybody all over the place start doing EB synth stuff and everything. I was just curious, like, what was that like for you?
I think like what was the EB synth specifically, or the channel finally taking off?
The channel taking off.
I think it was very gratifying because I was putting in the work for a long time. For those first, like, I did like weekly uploads since the start of 2019. And I had done many uploads on my channel before then. I just wasn't doing it on a weekly schedule. But it was very gratifying because it was many years of weekly uploads and sometimes 2, 3, 4 uploads a week. I was just working like a madman back then. I was fresh out of college, living in my family place. So I was just like, I want to make as much as possible while I have this little semblance of a safety net. So I was just making a lot of stuff. And it wasn't getting attention. There was like posting your own stuff on Reddit is futile because they have all these anti-self promotion rules. So I just posted a bunch of like, I posted a bunch of friend stuff at the time and just trying to help this little community of small creators grow. And then end of 2020, I did the first RPG video, and then I did the NPC tailing mission video, and those two were the double whammy that finally put like my years of work into the algorithm. So my channel's a little deceptive now because if you see stuff before the first RPG video, most of it has a lot of views, but for years all that stuff had like 100 views, 200 views. And I think just it's as simple as like hard work paying off and finally being able to see a future where I support myself doing what I was already doing. And I think both of those things are really nice feeling. And And just all the stuff it's led to has been so exciting. It's kind of hoisted me into the YouTube community at large, which has allowed me to make a lot of friends and collaborate with a lot of cool people. And
Were you nervous
yeah,
to work with anybody in particular, or were you just pretty much like, people are just people, you know?
I think there's an element of nerves when you're meeting anyone who you've seen a lot, like
Yeah.
anyone whose face but you don't know them personally, I guess. Like
I
coming
don't
to
have any
LA.
idea what that's like. I have no idea.
Coming to LA, which I didn't expect to stay here, but I met too many cool people. I was so excited to film with like Dax Flame and like Charlie's and like
Yeah.
everyone out here was so exciting to meet, and that was I think we instantly had a connection because we were all kind of doing similar things. We were all just making our own stuff, and
Yeah.
I think we enjoyed what each other was making. So
Did you know Dax Flames from the content that he put out when he was like in middle school or high school or whatever? Those
I
videos are a trip. I grew up watching those, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah, I remember my friend showing me those in like middle school or something, and it was amazing. Yeah. And he's just been a nonstop artist, and like seeing his like stuff he's done over the years, he's so good at whatever he's doing.
He's amazing.
And he's weirdly the first person with any sort of following I talked to, because he released a documentary called Indoor Garden in 2019, started 2019, and I watched it, and I like shot him an email, and I had just finished a movie, so I shared him my movie, and he actually watched my movie and responded, and it was a nice little exchange, but we didn't really start collaborating till like we reached back out when my channel took off and like did a couple long distance collabs.
Nice.
But, yeah.
Zach, before I throw it over to you, Joel, was moving to Los Angeles the end game for you? Was that always the goal?
Never. It was I often say I accidentally wound up here because I bought a van with a mattress, and I just wanted to travel and live in the van. And I traveled and lived in the van for 4 months in summer 2021. And I fully expected to keep my trip going because I came down the West Coast, and I messaged Dax actually, and I said, hey, let's shoot a movie together. So I camped outside Dax's house for his apartment for like 2 weeks in my van, and then we just shot a feature film together that's on my channel called Drowning in Potential. And that was really exciting. But through making that movie, I met just so many creators. So I was like, okay, I'll stay the rest of the month. And then I'm like, okay, I'll sublease for a month. I'll sublease another month. And then I slept on Chad Churdley's couch for 2 months. And then finally I just got my own place. And it felt a bit like I had to resign to it. I don't think I was ever like excited to be in LA because I'm not a very industry minded person, but I found all these creators who also weren't like industry minded people and more free and creating on YouTube. So that kind of kept me here for the time being.
Yep. That's usually the story with anyone that goes out to the West Coast.
That's how they get you.
My parents did that. They went out to the West Coast my father did that. He went out there just to visit friends. Went out there for like a week, and then in the course of that week sent home for all of his things and stayed out there for a decade. So they suck you in out there.
Yeah.
Zach,
I don't know if it's the weather or what, because it's certainly not the city, because the city's so dirty out here.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's my favorite. I go out there quite frequently. I try to get out there at least once a year, and I love just like going from like San Diego to Los Angeles, and there's just this like unofficial line where everything goes from very clean to very grimy.
Yeah.
And you can almost see that
LA is just so grimy.
You can almost see and feel that like film, that like film of dust and dirt and everything.
Yeah. And I think for me, Like I was very fortunate. I finally got to go to Europe this year. I've never been,
Mm.
and I finally saw some really aesthetically beautiful old cities that are well kept. And coming back to LA is just like, oh, LA is probably one of the worst cities in the first world. You know, it's like it's one of it
Well,
might just be that bad. I don't know.
where in Europe did you end up?
I traveled the Netherlands mostly. I saw like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, but I also went to Copenhagen and out to Switzerland and then the UK. And I'd say London was the most American feeling city, but everything else felt just so like historic and nice and quieter and really clean.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Zach, go ahead.
Yeah.
So, as our viewers and listeners are probably want, I'm the one that usually asks the timeline level questions. So I have to know, like, what was the spark for you? Like, did you always have this? Like, did Baby Joel come into this world with like the idea in his head that like I need to create? Like, where did like I have to know the foundation of what brought you to this point.
I think I don't know how much of it is nature or nurture. I always give a lot of credit to both my mom and my dad. They never questioned like my creative things growing up. You know, they never said like I was wasting time doing this or that. And even as it got to like the college level, they were just fully in support of me pursuing film and going for an art degree, as impractical as it is. And I think that can't be overrated. Like it's so beautiful to have a family that's there for your stuff. But on top of that, I think small town boredom. You're in a small town, and what is there to do but grab a camera and goof around? You know, you're not going to go out every night, or there's not much fun stuff to do. So you got to kind of make your own worlds. Yeah. So from a young age, like 8 years old, I was like grabbing my dad's camera and just like his little tape camera and just filming goofy stuff with my friends.
Nice.
And so it was a whole mixture of elements that I feel like created me. And maybe I have my brain is just driven to do it a lot. I think like when I see friends struggle with creating, I'm like, I think it's just the difference of brain chemistry, because my brain like will be sad if I'm not creating. Whereas I think some people feel the pressure a lot more than I do when like a project is entirely in their hands. You know, if somebody has to run their own YouTube channel and hit an upload every week, that's entirely on their responsibility plate. You know, there's no one else that is going to get it done for them. So I think that stresses some people out. Whereas me, that's fun because I don't have to answer to anybody and I have my own rules and my own schedule.
Yeah. I think
Where
we can
do you
all
think
relate
you
to
like,
that.
like, I'm just curious, like how the thing that always astounds me with people that are creatives, like as another creative, is just like figuring out like what really like shapes your worldview. Like how is it that like I'm like not just like how you create things and how you like come into ideas, because like I love also that a lot of your humor kind of like borders on that like fourth wall realness level. Also like there's a lot of absurdity going on which just like makes you think, but in like ways that you don't expect. And like I find, especially like I know Nate can agree, that that's a lot of the stuff that we always have like laughed at, and just I find it interesting because I don't meet a lot of people that I can ask this question to, but like what is it really that like kind of shaped your tastes and kind of how you fine tune your craft and like what the things that genuinely you find funny?
I once again probably a smorgasbord of everything, but I think some big things were like the independence of YouTube, like being there for 2005, 2006, right when it started, and then seeing like people get garner an audience making home movies, like the quality was not the point, there was no production value back then. So seeing that garner an audience inspired me to like always keep that sort of energy. And as the further I'd get away from that energy in like film school and stuff, the more I realized I was like not having fun, and it felt a little more disingenuous. So being genuine became a big focus of mine by the end of film school. I'm like, if I'm filming, I want it to just be me and my friends and not overproduced, just like a camera. And like, of course, like I like the technical stuff. I like making stuff look good. And I like color grading. I like all that stuff, but I'm not gonna sacrifice the fun for that stuff. And I decided that in film school. So I think, and then like all the breaks, a lot of my films have breaks either at the end or in the middle of them. And I don't want to lie and like be like, we weren't having fun making this. I want it to be so apparent that we had fun making it, because I think there's a lot of stuff we watch that is great, like movies, Hollywood movies, but they were probably a chore to make. And I just want to like be a part of that charge. That like when I saw Smosh as a kid, I was like, that looks fun and it doesn't look hard, and I, even if my stuff looks a little higher level than like early Smosh, I still want it to be like, that looks attainable because I could have fun with my friends and I just need to record it and get decent with editing, and so that drives me, the accessibility. I always want to make my art feel in reach for other people, so it could inspire them. And I also want to, I also want to just kind of be an artist and do whatever I want. And, animation this week, a live action next week, a feature film the next week, a song the next week. I don't really want to pigeonhole myself, because I think the joy of being an artist and especially the privilege of being an artist who has an audience, I really gotta push myself and not just like get comfy in the one corner that makes the most money and gets the most views. I'd rather make a little less money pushing myself and losing the people who are only there for one thing a little,
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what makes your channel so amazing, because I do YouTube as well, and I'm very aware that like YouTube favors you doing the consistent things, like having your channel be about one thing. And once you like diversify and start doing different things, YouTube is like, I don't know what to do with this channel. I don't know how to promote it. I don't know who wants this. And the algorithm just basically just says, well, good luck. You're on your own. But your channel really like takes off, and it's got to be because like it's so clear that you're passionate in what you are doing, and I can see it in your videos. Like one of my favorite things that you do is that you break sometimes, like you laugh, but you like immediately cut, like you do like a laugh and then it's cut back to like everything's fine, everything's normal. And I love that I love the fact that you leave that in. It's very like genuine. I'm just curious, like what percentage of your stuff is written out, or like is it all improv? Because like I feel like a lot of it is just you guys just having fun riffing and like just building off of each other. But then there's also some things where I'm like, that was too good for that to be like out of your brain. Like I feel like that had to have evolved somewhere, which it might have just come out of your brain. I don't know your brain, but I was just curious about that, because
I haven't written a script since film school, which was now 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh wow!
Everything since then has been fully improvised, including my features, and I do that because I just love capturing the joy of making each other laugh. And as great as a film could be, if you write it, you're not gonna shock your friends while you're like executing a script as much. It's fun to still have the process be as much of a funny thing as the product. It's like, and I love that element of it. And I love the spontaneity of it because most of them I have a beginning and no ending. So as we're filming, like the improv is not only like the improv dialogue, it's like story improv, it's like the beats are all improvised too for the most part. So where we wind up is always a bit of a surprise, which makes it more of an active creative process for me, and I get to skip writer's block because, rather than like sitting on a script for a week, I'm just going, it's like hitting record is the first step in one of my videos. You got to have some semblance of an idea, but some weeks I don't. So I just like gather some friends and I'm like, let's make each other laugh and see what happens,
Nice.
That's awesome.
So I think improv allows you freedom in that way.
Definitely. So would you say that, like, to you, it makes more sense for people to come into whatever it is that they're trying to do from a, like, what is it that is easy? It just comes freely for you in whatever this is. Because I feel like a lot of times people get into this brick wall with creativity where they feel like it needs to be this way. It needs to be this shape. It has to be that way. And a lot of people can go really far with that, sometimes constructing things. But I feel like a lot of those times where you hit walls, it comes down to what your perspective clashing with your ability to actually put something out there. And I was wondering if you've ever had an issue with that, or if you've ever helped your friends out with that kind of thing, because I know that's common to plague creative people.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest walls came in film school when I was like being told to like write a script and audition and have a bigger crew with lighting and rent out lights. I think those elements to me became less exciting, and then filmmaking became less exciting for it. So I kind of had to pull back a lot of that stuff and go back to the basics of just grabbing a camera and laughing. And I think what a mistake people make is creativity can be very performative, where we're doing what we think we should be doing rather than just trusting our gut. And, a lot of what we see from the filmmaking sphere is very produced, and we feel like we have to do that too. Because it's like, if our things don't look like Hollywood movies, if they don't sound, if, they don't squawk like a Hollywood movie, I don't know. It's like, we feel like we failed rather than allowing ourselves to be sloppy and earnest and cheap. And I think people hit that wall where, when it comes to filmmaking, at least it's a budgetary thing where they write it off entirely because they can't accomplish it they can't get to that perceived like goal, even though there's so many other ways to make film than that. And another thing is, I remember I was like watching a friend's thesis film in college, and they're like, what did you think? They clearly weren't happy with it. And I was kind of like, it was fine. I tried to be as honest as I could. And it was just like a very typical family drama. And I remember just asking them, like, is this something you'd watch? And they said, like, oh my God, no, I wouldn't watch this. And I'm like, and it's so obvious, but just make the stuff that you'd watch, And obviously there's a production element to that, where if it's like you tell that to a Marvel fan, they can't make a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
But
don't even have that argument.
Jeez. Yeah. But overall, I do think like that's such a good rule of thumb. It's like, would you watch what you're making? Because then you're gonna make it for yourself. You're gonna make something that you find funny, and no one has such a abstracted sense of humor that no one else will get it. I feel like there's maybe, but
I don't know. I sometimes feel like I have a very niche. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, there's niche people, but I mean, even like Connor O'Malley gets a fan base, or and people who are just screaming or in the streets. It's like
it's true.
There's enough people accessing the internet that you could find it. I think your biggest battles are the algorithm and the war for attention. There's so many people going at it that it becomes sometimes futile, but I do think you can find your audience if you put in the work, you hone your skills, make your stuff better and better, you might not support yourself, but you might at the very least find a core base of 100, 1,000 people who are like, I'm here for this stuff. I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I think that's a beautiful part of the internet, because that's how I felt for those 2 years where I was not getting any reception. I at least had this core 100 people that were like, dude, this stuff's awesome. And I was like, thank you.
And
you deserve like way more credit too, because when you say like you worked, like a lot of people don't really, they just think like you worked on like
if you haven't looked
itself.
yet, like go look at Joel's, like there is so much content there. It like that's one of the reasons we really were interested in talking to you, because like if you look us up, you can see that like we're on like 578, I don't know what episode now, but like Jack's been doing this for forever, and like we finally got to this point where we're on a podcast network now, and like that's to me like the whole reason why I thought this would be a really good conversation too is because like I'm a relatively new fan, but like I just kind of dove into your library myself, and one of the things that really grabbed me was the video you posted in response to the whole it appearing like SNL borrowed one of your jokes, and like the way that you characterized that was just, people don't say things like that enough in the creative space. And it's
Charmin
like
bears.
Like it's really, I just find it really important, because especially now with like AI and like all those conversations about how people create things, and like all the stuff with the like all the strikes and trying to make sure people are paid proper money, like the whole thing is a mess. So I can totally respect you just trying to do your craft in your lane where you have the control over it, and it's not going to be adulterated in any way. But like, I don't know, like that's something that I feel like your fans really resonate with. And I'm just curious to, like, has anything else like came out of that after that video? Because I mean, I'm all T. I just got to know.
I guess the gist of the situation is I made an animation with the Charmin bears where, the son is going to college but doesn't want to be a butt wiping bear. He wants to dance, and it got like 1 million views. And then 2 months later, I started getting a bunch of messages and comments that are like, watch what SNL just did. And Saturday Night Live made a Charmin Bears video with that exact concept. The kid wants to go to college, and the family wants him to wipe butt. But it was very SNL. It was SNL-fied, like maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, and it wasn't as funny or as subtle. But I was like, wow, this is a weird timing, because it's not like the Charmin Bears were in the cultural zeitgeist,
No.
It was like they've been around. So somebody probably saw it on the writers' team and had a slow day and pulled from their subconscious or even their conscious and used some element of it. And I think people wanted me to go to war. To this day, that video still gets so many comments that are like, you should have sued them. You should have. And I'm like, oh yeah, allow me to take on NBC's lawyers.
That doesn't sound like a good time for anybody.
I think
involved.
you handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, there is a lot of parallel thinking in the creative world, but like this was a little bit too specific. Okay. But you were like giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. And I applaud you for handling it the way you did, because totally. I actually have a fear of that. Like I have a fear of posting, like I do comedy videos, and like I have a fear of posting something and then somebody else is going to do it, and then nobody will believe me because I only have like 2,000 subscribers. So it's like really panicky to be like, I'm really scared that it's kind of like an arrogant fear, because I'm like, oh yeah, Saturday Night Live is going to want my stuff. But it's like, if that happened to me, I would be like, oh, that would be like my worst fear come true. So that was handled very well, in a way that you also left the door open for maybe working with them someday. So
I'm
smart.
I'm an SNL apologist, but I think you obviously had the more superior version of that.
And the last thing I wanted to do more than anything was just set the precedent that our creative, like our concept could be copywritten, because all the people who are like, sue them. I'm like, I don't want to set that precedent because then the big guy could use that on the little guys. It's like anyone who does a remake of More Cowbell on YouTube could get sued. Like people are doing like remakes of SNL stuff all the time or just like similar stuff. And I think creative ideas should be like free. And if somebody steals your thing or like same exact principle as like giving my animation style away. Like I was like teaching people
how to do it. You taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. And the whole idea is there's three existences, three possible things that come out of that. You either have somebody do it, better than you, and that's amazing, because that takes work and effort and talent and comedy chops, so like they deserve that. Somebody who does it just as good also takes a lot of work, and somebody who doesn't do it as good, or they have to learn, and that's not a threat on your stuff either, so I just think I'm like, I was not concerned about like somebody like becoming the absinthe guy and taking over my thing, because I'm like, if they do it that well, they deserve it. And if not, they're having fun and they're creating and they're making stuff. And I'm happy to inspire that too,
Dude, that is such a positive outlook. I love that. We need more of that in this world.
Really
you
do.
have, by the way, before, you 100% have inspired at least one person.
I would say
sure.
two.
Like, because like the other thing like I love like some of your videos are like written or not, what I mean, performed as like a sketch, but then you have some that are just more casual and more like a documentary style, but it's still quirky and it still has some funness to it. And like, I think for me, that was a great lesson for me, that like you should really be free with your art instead of being like, because when I do comedy and I'm so focused, like you have to laugh. You must laugh. Like I have to make it. And there's a lot of pressure when you do that. But when you just are like, you see a rainbow on the wall and you just decide to make a documentary about rainbows, like that's awesome. So thank you for inspiring that. Because you're right. You have to be passionate at what you do. If you're not passionate, people see right through it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zach, go ahead.
So I wanted to also make sure we made sure to talk about some of your content, because like I definitely have had questions. So the one that always like one of my favorite ones I will just sometimes rewatch when I just need to feel better is the Dinglemeyer one. Jack, if you would please play at least 30 seconds of it, because if you haven't seen it, it is like, it really describes the kind of humor that I really have come to love and appreciate as I've gotten older. But like, yeah, I definitely have questions about it, because like there's something I love when people make something funny and poignant at the same time, because then it like it hits in ways that's just like it stays with you. And Dinglemeyer stays with me. I don't know.
Let me play a few seconds of it here.
Hi. I'm Dinglemeyer. How are you? Oh, me? I'm not so good. Today's just not my day. Like any other day, I woke up laying face down on a rock, and I screamed for 20 minutes. Ah! But beyond that, I just didn't get up. Most days after I scream, I get up and I grab a stick and I start stabbing things. But not today.
Joel, is this all just improv?
Yeah, it was a speech we ran through a couple of times and just modified it each time. And sometimes the improv is you do a couple takes and you keep what you like from the previous takes, but still allow it to be fluid.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, I'm gonna remember that.
You know, like you do one take and you're like, okay, I like some things I said didn't like others, so you know, I'll modify it and still improvise on top of that.
Yeah.
And that was probably the final take of like 10 of them that me and Trent did, because that one's unique because it was an absence video that I wanted to do all in one shot. So rather than animate a bunch of shots, I just wanted to do one long one that had a lot of movement and just two characters. So that was
I have a question about that. When you're improving and building up on it, how do you keep track of what you like because it's good versus new and different? Like, you know, if you do one take one way and then you do a take that's completely different, how do you decide which one you like more? Because like from my experience, I always get challenged by like, do I like this because it's different and new and not something that because like I write scripts, I write them, I perform them, but then often I find that I like when I just do improv stuff and I'm like, do I like the improv stuff because it's new to me and it's refreshing, or is it better? So I was just curious, how do you have a method of how you decide, or do you just like kind of just go with your gut?
That's really interesting. I think a key pillar improv is that everything's new, and that's exciting. You know, because I haven't sat with the material on a page, and it's just happening in the moment. Everything's just in competition with itself, and it's kind of an even playing field. It's like, what's making us laugh the most? What's the most interesting at in the moment? And it's like, oh, this made us laugh more, so that should be what we do. But with that said, like, it also helps a lot that, you know, to be your own editor doing improv, you're like piecing the edit in your head together a bit, and that's a skill unto itself because you're juggling a lot of stuff in your brain. But ultimately, it's like if you train that muscle and you have a feeling when the video's done, you're like, okay, that's the cut to credits, or that's the you know, that's the last moment. Like it becomes, it's more natural than you'd think, you know. And of course with improv, the edit is always fluid, you know. I'm always changing stuff or finding new jokes in the order of clips, or, you know, cutting stuff. But it's fluid enough that like it allows you to have some confidence about some rigid things about it. You're like, okay, this beat is needed, this is needed, and this is definitely the ending. And that will kind of guide you as you shoot, you know, the best things you capture. Yeah.
I'm curious about the turnaround times for both the animated videos and then the I guess live action ones, if you will, like the one that you posted just a few days ago.
Absinthe takes forever. Done.
Absinthe, yeah. If you've done it, it takes a long time, but the animations are definitely leagues beyond the live action as far as speed, because you're essentially editing a rough version of a live action anyways to get to the animation point, and then you have to animate 50, 100, 1,000 frames, you know. So it really does take a long time. Lately I've been having my friend Alex Martins, who's a very funny comedian in his own right. He uploads on YouTube, and he also animates in his own style. But Alex has been helping me on the last handful of them, and that has cut the time in half, and that's been really helpful. And but like your average like 5-minute Joel animation will probably take like 50 to 70 hours.
Okay.
And that's like me working at maximum efficiency these days, because I used to be much slower. I did the first 8 on a mouse and keyboard, which is crazy. Now I have a drawing tablet. So,
oh, nice.
Wacom or Wacom or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, I got the Wacom. I don't know if that's right either. But
just play it safe and pronounce it just as many different ways as you can.
Yeah. And then the live action is much more of a efficiency thing, where I know, like, I have a formula to like a live action short where I know I could get it done in like probably 2 or 3 days. If depending on the length, I could shoot it in like a couple hours and then edit it over 2 days and take 10 to 16 hours or something like that and sometimes some weeks I'll be caught up animating in the background. So I'll crank out something that only takes like 8 hours to make, something that I could get done in a day so that I could keep animating. And then there's other things you're juggling, like acting in other people's stuff and just social life and making sure to still retain some sort of existence outside of your work, which is a challenge in and of itself. But
does that leave you? Sorry, Nate. Does that leave you any time to play video games?
Lately, I've been playing a little. I grew up a huge video game fan. Like that was my whole childhood. Like I was just playing games all the time with my brother and my friends. And since college, I've just like it's become such a like seventh priority for me. But this week I replayed through Dark Souls 3, which is one of my favorite games ever.
Nice.
And I just have been replaying through Arkham Asylum actually because I used to love the Arkham games.
Hell
so
yeah.
I guess I'm on a nostalgia trip a bit because I'm just replaying games right now.
Are you going to try that Suicide Squad game that the Arkham developer is working on?
It doesn't look promising, but I'll wait. It doesn't have any of the things that like the Arkham games did well, so it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for this. I worked for the company that made or published the whole Arkham series. So this new Suicide Squad game, I'm like so relieved now that I can like give my opinions on just all the pre-release behind it, and my opinions are not high. So I'm right there with you. It does not look promising. But if this was like 2 years ago, I'd be like, don't say that. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. Please don't fire me.
Was that Warner Bros. Or something else?
Yeah, Warner Brothers. So I reported to the overlords up there in Burbank. So at the water tower.
They all are in there. That's the corporate office.
Yep.
Don't tell you that.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance though, the studio tour is fun if you've never done it before. And do it on a weekend because then they'll things aren't in production, so you'll be able to go into more areas that typically are cordoned off during the week. And I don't know if this will be up before it comes out, this interview, but Grand Theft Auto 6, or that's what it's purportedly going to be called. But we're going to be talking about that a lot on our podcast. But the announcement of the trailer has become a meme because like other games like Halo and Fall Guys are all making fun of that announcement. Do you see something like that and say I can make a video making fun of this?
I think as a creator, you're always keeping in the back of your mind like what's popular right now, but I'm so particular with it. Like there's certain creators who do the expected thing, like when there's an event they do the expected joke on it. Like I guess like an example which is now a bit old would be like the Colleen Ballinger apology, and like 100 people did their own musical apologies, which makes sense, is funny, but I need like an extra feeling that I'm adding something only I could add to this. So I don't usually jump on situations like that unless I'm really like, this is an idea that hasn't been done and it probably won't be done. I think I was more liable to do it before my channel took off because I just is like writing that popular stuff is a great way to get some semblance of algorithm juice. But nowadays I'm less inclined, and like most of my stuff isn't even like based around a relatable concept these days. I'm just like having fun with my friends.
Just having fun.
Yeah, it's just like, and I think that's really special that I still have 100,000 people tuning into every video because they're not relatable. They're relatable in that the people are awkward and strange, and we know people like that. We've been people like that. We've been the guy who got too angry one time. We've been the guy who just said the wrong thing. So they're relatable in that way, but overall, I'm not basing them on like when you go to the store. I don't know what
Right.
the title would be, but
I like how I like you're speaking in past tense with all of that. I'm like, I'm still all of those things. So I'm going to be all those things for the rest of my life.
Oh, I'm still those things too. Yeah, we all have those days, weeks, months. We all have that time. But
Nate, I cut you off earlier. We got sidetracked talking about video games. Let me throw it back to you.
It was a good conversation. And so I'm a little bit all right, well, I'll just ask. So when you create stuff on your own and you were like, let's say 5,000 or less subs, did it change your relationship with how you were making things once you got like a bigger audience and it became a job? Like, because I've known, like, as a musician as well, like, I know, like, when I'm making music and just jamming with my friends, that's the best. But when I'm like, I have to write a hit single or, a platinum album or whatever, and it becomes like your livelihood, does it change your relationship with it? Or do you just pretty much have to just, because like you're so playful with this, like it just doesn't seem like it really like has that big of an effect. But I'm just curious, like, what your relationship was with your work before your channel blew up versus after.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to keep in mind, because anytime like artist garners a audience, especially one really fast or a bigger one than they're used to, it does run the risk of putting the artist in a corner and making them cater to their audience. And I tried so hard not to change my stuff, and to this day, like, I'm still using the same camera and microphones that I used when I had 3,000 subscribers. I haven't changed my setup. I haven't changed my I haven't even changed my process. I'm not like having a crew now. It's usually just me and the camera and a tripod, and if we need to get a handheld shot, we just hand it off to each other. It's like, who's cool. Who's not on camera? Okay, you'll get this shot, but
do you find any limitations with like technology where something that you're so accustomed to using suddenly isn't available anymore because something newer is out there that makes it a lot easier, but you're like, conservative and like, no, I like what I had. I want to use what I had.
Not that anything's not available. Like, recently my camera, after like 4 years, broke and I didn't need to replace it. And there was a brief period where I'm like, okay, what kind of videos do I make in the meantime? And I like borrowed a friend's camera, which was very nice to have, but I also I used like a tape recorder camera at that time. And I think being able to adapt is very valuable, because there will be times that it's like something goes horribly wrong, and it's like, I don't have a microphone today. It's like, if what can you make? But I don't think, I think keeping my process, at least having a base level of my process, has allowed me to, not change with an audience, and it's allowed me to not get too shot in the foot, because I have something to fall back on if I do try something new. And if something becomes unavailable for me, my process is so simple as is. It's like, okay, I don't have my lav mic today. Okay, I'll use a phone, or I'll do it all in post, or, oh, I don't have my camera today. Okay, I'll use a phone, or I'll use a camcorder, it's very adaptable in that way. And I guess being adaptable is a really strong suit to have. Yeah. On YouTube. Yeah.
Zach, go ahead.
So I guess another question I have is when it's time for you to like enjoy yourself and then like watch something, or like, what is it that, like, what kind of media do you really look for? Like, are there like things that you like that you're always checking to see when they have an update? Like, who do you go to for stuff?
I'd say I have two trains of thought for like what I want to watch. Like, I throughout the day, I'm watching YouTube, as I do my chores, as I animate, as I and like kicking my feet up with with dinner, I'm usually putting on YouTube and either watching my friends or any number of creators. It's always a good day when like Donkey uploads. We all love Donkey. But stuff like that to make me laugh. And then I also love watching movies, which are a little harder to find the time for sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I woefully underwatched on TV. I haven't seen any of the series people tell you to watch. I do love movies, and when I'm turning on a movie, I'm either trying to laugh with my friends or just laugh to myself, or I'm trying to cry. I love an emotional movie that connects with me in the same way music does. I think it just makes you feel less alone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It makes you feel less alone in your emotions and your thoughts. And so, and I just want to see an artist like express themselves. And those are always my favorite movies where I feel like an artist kind of laid themselves bare in a way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite movie?
I have a couple answers, but usually I go with John Cassavetes, who, it's an answer that requires 20 explanations because it's so, it's not something most people know. But
Yeah.
John Cassavetes was like an independent filmmaker in the 50s to the 80s. And, he was largely accredited as being the first American independent filmmaker because in the 50s, he just street funded a movie for him and his acting friends. He like put an ad in the newspaper. He went on radio shows and he's like, hey, me and all my acting friends are making a movie. And he raised money and made a movie in the 50s when no one else was doing that. They didn't even have consumer grade cameras back then. They didn't have anything like that. And he was doing that when it was so hard to do it. So it really is admirable now that it's so much easier to do that, to see somebody who had the drive and willpower to make that happen. And my favorite movie of his is Love Streams, which is his last movie, which is just really sad. He was married to Jenna Rowlands, who's a very talented actress, and they made all their movies together. And it's before Love Streams, he got the prognosis that he had 6 months to live. So him and his wife made one last movie together, and it's just a very sad, beautiful, strange movie that makes me cry like no other. So I just love it. But that's the long-winded answer.
We also would have accepted the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Or Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
I'm so glad Love Streams was on the 3 you would accept. That's very special.
Yeah, for sure. My next question, and possibly last question. I'm curious. You talked about like things not always going right and things like mishaps, and what's the craziest thing that's happened while you've been filming? I just got to know.
I think what most would call like a disaster would be my first feature film is called We Are Sasquatch, and I shot it in 2016 in my hometown on a bunch of VHS cameras I got off Craigslist.
Nice.
And it was we were filming the climax of the movie, and I got like a bunch. I like asked to film in the town hall, and because it's such a small town, they're just like, yeah, you could do that. They didn't even charge me. They just let me film there. But I got like 30 people together for this big climactic scene, and I had a VHS-C camera that I was filming most of the movie with, and like halfway through that filming day, the camera broke. And I had backups, and none of them worked. And I just had like 30 people there, and I was like, shit, I got everyone together. And but even then, that was like a blessing in disguise. Sorry, I'm so snotty today.
That's okay.
But even then,
too.
'Tis the season.
Yeah.
and even then, it's like a blessing in disguise because I like stopped filming for the day. I was like, okay, we got what we got, which was fortunately a lot of it. And then my friends and I kind of went back to the drawing board, and we hadn't even, all my stuff's pretty improvised. So we hadn't really thought through the ending that much. So we kind of like brainstormed some ideas on how to do it smaller scale. And I think the ending scene we came up with where we came back to the place, but only with a handful of people, worked really well.
Nice.
I was lucky that I got like most of the shots I needed. If I got like half of that, I definitely would have had to just reschedule. But it was a disaster like that can happen when you're working with like 30-year-old cameras or 20-year-old cameras that don't have any like support anymore. No one's making the batteries or the anything for them, so you're like running it off a portable outlet. But
just giving me flashbacks to that Cowboy Bebop episode where they're trying
I was thinking about that just now.
Going through like hell just to find like a functioning VHS player just to play
I gotta watch that. That's one of those shows I gotta watch.
I'll watch that all the way through, but those last couple episodes always make me cry. I don't know what it is. Something about it.
It's one of those feeling series for sure.
And I gotta specify,
not the Netflix.
Not the Netflix. Correct.
No, not the Netflix one. Not the Netflix one. No.
Hey, they tried.
They did.
I'm all for.
The casting.
I saw a scene from that, and the editing was so bizarre. It was just like
it's a little weird.
It's just like the TV editing these days is so like choppy and paced weird, and like TV is so stretched out. I have my own qualms with TV, and I'm sure there's tons of great shows, but I'm just like, I hate the cliffhanger structure. I hate that every episode needs to make you watch the next one
for binge purposes.
Yeah, it'd be like if every movie was structured as going black every 15 minutes and being like, well, what's gonna happen next? It's like,
let the content speak for itself.
It's like I'm like, stories are so much more interesting to me when they're not like where it's more like, and then like a slow fizzle out. So I think a lot of TV loses me because it's built around giant.
That's fair.
That's it now. I mean, that's just the way it's the culture is. It's the generation we have to cater to. Zach, before I throw it to you, just my last question for you, Joel, is talking a lot about how everything that you do is improv and there's no scripts. The people that you work with that are in your videos, are they largely comfortable with the improv approach, or have they voiced any desire to have it be more regimented, be more scripted and structured?
I don't think I've ever had anyone voice that concern, and I'm always bringing on people who have never really acted before. I have all my family and my stuff throughout the years, and my hometown friends, and then like friends I made in LA that aren't necessarily like content creators or anything. Mm-hmm. So I've never had that concern voiced. But I do think that like scripting is way harder for somebody who doesn't have experience. I think like if you give somebody lines, they way overthink, they way overact, and they stumble so hard. Whereas if you just let somebody, like, everybody knows how to have fun and make each other laugh. And if you create an environment where it's like, there happens to be a camera, but we're just doing a goofy bit together, most people could like catch that wave and ride it. That's I think the biggest strength of improv when it comes to like working with people who haven't acted is that they're not getting caught up on the line, because the line is something they're coming up with. It's like, you're not asking them to recite something to you, you're asking them to react. It's like, and then in reacting, they're already acting better because they're not thinking of how to react. They're just reacting, mm-hmm. They're not coloring a line with a reaction. They're genuinely coming up with how they say something in a moment. And I think that's what's led to a lot of people really enjoying being in my videos. Just they're not in a stressful situation.
That's awesome. That's a really good perspective. Thank you. Zach, do you have one more for Joel?
Yes. So first of all, one comment: you need to remember the phrase algorithm juice and do something with that, because like I've been thinking about that constantly since you said it. And I was like, oh, what is that? Like, if we could market that, like people would be selling that on like every single
the teenage drink of high school. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber.
Algorithm juice.
Yeah, it's the new Four Loko.
Four Loko for kids.
for loco for kids. It writes itself. But like,
Yeah.
I guess my last question would be, what is it that you would hope that, you know, someone who's never seen your stuff before takes away from it in general?
I think there's like different levels of my stuff. You know, people usually get introduced to the comedy videos, like the really comedic, goofy stuff. And I just hope they laugh and it brightens their day. And the biggest compliment to me is if somebody comments saying they come back to a video. Like, I love to hear you come back to Dinglemeyer because that's such a random one in my catalog. I feel it's not one that's referenced often, so it's always nice when somebody has like a favorite that's a little more less popular, I guess. But even though that one did well, but anyways, I think I hope they enjoy it. I hope it and then another level is if they connect with it deeper, I hope it inspires them to make their own stuff. I hope my stuff like makes them see like you can be creative on YouTube and you don't have to really do the YouTuber thing of like shouting or, you know, putting on a persona other than the characters you're acting as, obviously. But I even a further level, I hope like my more emotional, personal stuff, like I've made features and very personal videos. I hope that can connect with people in a way that like music connects with me. And I hope it on a low day, they can feel less alone. And on a good day, it could give them a laugh, I guess, is the general gist of my content. Yeah.
Wow, that's nice.
I really like hearing that. And, you know, this is exactly why we like having people on, because like we love talking to people that are passionate about the things that they do. And your authenticity definitely comes off in everything that you do. So good job so far.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That means a lot.